The Shep Naz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shep Naz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today for
Worship Wednesday.
It is Worship Wednesday.
Yepers.
We're pretty excited about that.
Always.
And last week we talked about some, kind of retro rewind songs that we might want to throw back into the mix.
Yeah.
We got some positive responses on that, and some people gave some other suggestions. In fact, a couple that I've heard even since then were God of Wonders.
Ooh, okay. Nice.
And let's see what was... I think there was another one. Oh, My Redeemer Lives. Although I don't know if that would be a little hard to pull off.
Yeah, maybe
in
a little
group
bit.
setting, but yeah.
Great song, though. Great song.
Might be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Pastor Zack, what are we doing today?
Well, we have reached out to our beautiful listeners and essentially asked, what do they want to know?
Yep.
And so we have compiled a list of questions that Noah and I don't know what these questions are necessarily.
No.
And so we're just going to answer your questions off the top of the dome. So
Oh, all right. Well,
it'll be
that
interesting.
sounds harmless, doesn't it?
Right? Could go really good or really not. We'll see how this goes.
Now, the beauty is, I'm looking at the questions, and you'll never know if it was actually a question on there.
Oh, no. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Joe's going to go totally rogue on this one. We're in trouble.
I mean, for example, the first question. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So, Zach, where do you buy your skinny jeans?
Ooh, that's a wonderful question.
That's not a real one.
Unfortunately, I have an answer, but I'm not proud of it, so we'll skip that one.
It's in the women's department.
At Justice.
All right. No, that was not a real question.
Touche.
All right. So let's see. I think here's a good one that ties in with what you guys do.
Okay.
All right. What musical instrument do you wish you played and why? So while you're thinking about that, I think, first of all, you should probably disclose to people the musical instruments that you do play so they would know why you might have excluded those from the list of the ones that you want to be able to play. So, Noah, you go first.
All right.
What do you play?
Drums are my number one thing I can play. Guitar, electric and acoustic. I can play a little bit of bass. I can get by. But I've most recently picked up piano. That's been my one that I've kind of gotten the best at so far. But if I had to pick one that I could play, I think it would be the violin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just watched a video yesterday of this guy ripping an awesome fiddle solo, and I can't do it, but I'd love to.
Well, and I think that you would start something new, because I don't know. I've seen a lot of worship leaders with a fiddle. So
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Whoa.
There you go. Trendsetter.
There you go.
I'll be a trendsetter.
Yeah, probably the violin.
All right. And Zach, disclose your instruments.
Yes. So I as well started out as a drummer. So drums are probably my numero uno as far as knowledge base. Then guitar, acoustic and electric, some bass. That's pretty much it as far as like what I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Play piano too.
I don't know. I was going to say like that's one thing I want to learn how to do right. Like I can play piano in the key of D. And I don't know why. Like
It's just the length of my fingers is perfect for an F sharp.
I think I've only seen you play in D.
it's because I can't play anything else.
Any song we've written has been in D.
In D.
And any song you've showed me that you've written has been in D.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just a muscle memory thing. Like, if it's in the key of D, I'm good. Outside of that,
funny.
I'm garbage. So I would love to take piano lessons this year, but I think if I was to throw a wild card in there, kind of along the same lines as keys, I would love to be good at playing the accordion. Oh, it's just such an interesting instrument, and I think it would be fun to know how to do that.
So this segues into a little story here that I have to share.
Accordion story.
Yeah. So my son Luke, he has that gift where he can pick up an instrument and within a short amount of time he can figure out how to play it. So yard sailing the first weekend of June out in Hebron is like a big thing.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal because it is the national road, Route 40.
We used to make that trek
Yard
every
sale.
year.
Well, I think it was one particular year he found an accordion.
Nice.
And it wasn't really functional, but he got it somewhat functional and then taught himself how to play it. And this
Of course he did.
This was his either maybe junior year in high school, something like that. And then the symphonic band during the spring concert played a song that featured the accordion, and Luke came out and did a solo.
Of course. That's like the most Luke thing I've ever heard. Like it makes perfect sense.
Okay, so for me, for instruments, so I grew up with kind of the classical music background in voice and trumpet, and I play keys. I have attempted bass from time to time, but if I were to pick an instrument that I don't play that I should, that would probably be acoustic guitar, or electric guitar. I've not really taken the time. My fingers don't seem to be shaped right for it, but anyhow, all right. So I think we nailed down that question. All right, so
it's a goodie.
Tell us about your favorite school teacher.
Ooh. Wow. Oh, I got to think about this one because I was a bad student.
I got a good one.
Go for
All
it.
right, let's hear it.
So I went to Harmon Elementary. I didn't live over there, but my mom was a teacher there, and they actually let her be my fourth grade teacher.
Aww.
So I have another one in mind, but I want to please my mother. So, Mom, you're the best fourth grade teacher there was. So
that's wonderful. Wonderful. I'm going to try to remember his exact name. It was my 8th grade math teacher, and I want to say his name was Mr. Kryling. And it wasn't because of math. He was a guitar player, and we did something called the 8th grade acoustic jam. Ooh, and it was anybody in the 8th grade that played guitar. We started like a guitar club, and then towards the end of the year, we did like a showcase show. And the thing about Mr. Kryling, though, was that because I was a terrible student and not good at math, he was like, listen, if you don't get your grades up, you're not playing at the 8th grade acoustic jam. And I was like, oh, well, I got to play at the 8th grade acoustic jam.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So we would do after school lessons, and we'd do a half hour of guitar jamming and a half hour of math lessons. And he really pushed me to get better so I could play the 8th grade acoustic jam. And he was very impactful. So
Sounds like School of Rock.
That is.
Let's play the end of the year show. He's got to make that.
No, you're not hardcore.
It's his only way to get the girl.
Exactly. Facts. Still never got the girls, but that's
that
okay.
really speaks to how committed that teacher was.
He was awesome.
Really.
That's a good dude.
To be able to invest that kind of time.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, I actually have several favorites, but I guess the one that will rise to the top for this discussion, her name is Mrs. Kleiber. I'm quite sure she's probably passed by now, but I hope not. But she would probably be 120 years old. Right? But Mrs. Kleiber was both my 3rd and 4th grade teacher.
Nice.
And she was at Monterey Elementary, which is in Grove City. Yeah. Well, I'm going to speak to your Harmon Elementary. So Harmon Elementary was named after the person that was the principal at
Really?
Monterey Elementary when I was at Monterey
Look at
Elementary.
that.
Yeah, so full circle.
Have you heard the buzz about our upcoming Pumpkin Smash and Bash? Mark your calendars for the last Saturday of October and get ready for an afternoon packed with family-friendly fun. Join us for pumpkin bowling, pumpkin launching, and a hayride that the entire family can enjoy. There will be tons of activities, a bake sale open to everyone, and one of my personal favorites, sack races. Bring your friends along, compete together, and let's have an absolute bash. If that wasn't enough, the Sergeant Coffee Company will be on site to provide free coffee and hot chocolate. Ready to join the fun? The Pumpkin Smash and Bash is October 26th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, located at 425 South Hamilton Road, Gahanna, Ohio, 43230.
All right. Well, we'll try to get to something that maybe has a little bit more spiritual implications than just the first two. I think we'll do maybe two more questions today, and we'll leave some of them in the hopper for later.
Sounds good.
But, all right. So if you could spend one day with one Bible character, who would you choose and why? Now,
Not Jesus.
I'm going to add the caveat. Yes, I'm going to add the not Jesus caveat
Touché.
because we're not going to do the Sunday school answer. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be with Jesus. All right. We
Touché.
all want to be with Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, guys.
For
So
sure.
that's off the table. So if it wasn't Jesus, any other Bible character that you would want to spend the day with? And then why?
Yeah, it's a good one. You got anything in mind?
Yeah, maybe.
Enough that you're ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only reason I don't know if I'd want to, I'm saying Paul, but I feel like we'd get into something bad just because.
Is that why you want to go?
No. Just because anything he did was.
You get locked up
you
and
were
you
getting
get
in
beat
prison.
up.
But just that, I feel like I feel like everybody wrestles with it, but just that, when he had that realization, like in your mind, you do what you don't want to do, but
Yeah.
what you do want to do, you don't do. And I'd love to just sit down and like talk with him. Like, how did you like get out of that? Like, what's like, you've clearly cracked the code on something, like,
Yeah.
and just sitting with him and just being like, dude, how are you like in the midst of everything? Like, your trip to Rome, you're shipwrecked, you're beaten, you're thrown in prison. Like, what is it? Because like, there's something in my life that I'm not clearly getting. Because what is it? Actually, and obviously he's written this down, but just sitting with him and just seeing like, did he actually act like that, or like, was he actually like angry when he got thrown in prison, or
Right.
just stuff like that. I feel like with Paul, it would be a no doubter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
I would go with Peter for
Peter?
a multitude.
Interesting that you guys would pick Peter and Paul. Kind
Oh,
of.
yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, So with Peter, like, I there's a couple different reasons, because I read a lot of stuff that Peter did and I can kind of relate to it, right? Like, hear me out. I'm not saying I'm a tough guy by any means, but like,
Oh, we all say that.
well, that's true.
That's what
I am very tough. It's my reputation.
You're known for being
Yeah.
like the manliest of mans.
Yeah, that's why I wear skinny jeans.
Because he can.
Because
It
I
doesn't-
can.
Yeah.
From Hollis.
What are you gonna say, right? So, no, not because I'm tough, but I think of like, okay, so with Jesus in the garden, with Peter cutting off the guard's ear, right?
Yeah.
Is like, I think of like, I kind of in a way have this kind of protector mindset, like obviously not physical, because I would just get beat up in an instant because I'm small and not strong, but that just that kind of heart behind like the protector mindset. And then, Peter walking on water, obviously I want to hear all about that.
Yeah.
And I relate to Peter in a way, because it's like, there's been so many times in my life where God has done some amazing things and like, I can't deny it, but then I still doubt. Right. So like, I think of Peter walking on the water. It's like, you're literally in the middle of a miracle and you took your eyes off Jesus and started sinking. Right. So I just want to kind of hear like where his mind was, but then even going all the way to the crucifixion where he denied Christ, but then ended up turning around and being the cornerstone of the church that we know today.
Yeah.
And just seeing the way that, he did all these things, and God even told him like, oh yeah, you're going to deny me 3 times. It's like, no way. Like, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Then did it. But then God still used him, and to just pick his brain on like, where was your head Like when you knew what happened and you ran away, you denied Jesus 3 times, and then you bailed. What was the light bulb that went off? Like, I want to know when you turned it around, how you turned it around, and why, you know?
Yeah.
I just think there's so many levels to that guy that I would love to know.
You know, especially when that scene that you were referring to in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he strikes the soldier's ear, you think at that moment, he was trying to follow through on what his promise was, because he had told Jesus, I'm ready to go with you, to prison and to death, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, oh no, you're going to deny me. So I would imagine in his mind, if you're living in that moment instead of looking back at it hindsight, he was thinking, I got to step up. I got to do it because I said I would.
Yeah.
And then when Jesus is like, no, that's not
Right.
that's not what we're here for. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Then he was like, what did I miss? So I'm sure it would be very interesting to kind of hear from him and learn from him.
Absolutely.
I feel like, can I get one more? Just
Sure.
or just a conversation.
It's our imaginary
I
world
would,
where you can actually spend 2 days with 2 different Bible characters. Okay.
And not even a whole day, just a conversation with Zacchaeus.
He was a wee little man. Sorry, go ahead.
Me
The
too.
wee little man.
Me too. But there's this radical like this dude was like scum of the earth. Like he's taken from people. He's in his ways, made plans with the Roman. He's just the worst person. And he gives it all up after one conversation with Jesus. He has one dinner with Jesus and I want to know what Jesus told him.
Yeah.
Cause like, that's why I've been praying. And like, it's kind of why I've said that. Cause I've been praying it recently. Just like, God, I want to be able to know what you said to Zacchaeus so I can tell other people so that they can walk away from our conversation changed. Like, dude, one dinner. And Zacchaeus was like, okay. Like,
that's cool.
But he had this whole, setup, this whole everything. He was going to be like, he had everything to the world.
Yeah.
And one conversation just changed it. Like, so I'd love just to know what Jesus like told him or showed him, whatever.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
yeah, I don't know.
That's really cool.
What about you, Joe?
All right. So this one's going to seem like it's coming out of left field, I think. But
Jesus.
right. But I do have a why behind it. Now, the caveat is that it's one day, because I don't know if I could spend a lot more time with this guy than one day.
Okay.
But one day would be cool. All right.
That's your cap.
And that would be Samson. All right.
Ooh,
yeah. So
okay.
like, here's a guy that, sees, he takes foxes and ties their tails together and sets them on fire. He takes
This crazy guy doing with these poor foxes.
he takes a donkey jawbone and beats people with it. I mean, I'm thinking maybe one day with this guy would be pretty cool.
Sounds about right.
I don't know how long I would want to hang out with him. I don't want to be there on the day when he pulls down an entire stadium on himself.
Touche.
But man, that guy had some passion.
Yeah.
Like he's like, you know what we're gonna do?
See those foxes?
Here,
Watch this.
It's crazy.
You watch these foxes lose their mind.
here, hold my vat of wine.
I've got to catch that fox.
I think he would be a pretty interesting guy to spend a day with.
I agree.
So
That's
all right.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good one. I
would
like
be
that
my
one.
guy. All right. So last question for today. And this is a little bit more serious note. If you had a prayer request and could only ask one person to pray, who would you ask and why?
Oh boy.
Wowzers.
Yeah, we just went from there to
Right.
that.
Bring it real serious. I have an answer. I know who I would. Unfortunately, this person is no longer with us. But Kristen's grandmother, Joyce Green, there was something about the way that woman prayed that I could literally sense heaven in the room when she prayed. Like, I grew up in church, and I do church for a job, and I hear a lot of people pray, and I have never heard anybody come to the throne of the Father with as much conviction as she did. And it was to the point where, like, I think the last memory I have was Thanksgiving dinner with her, with Kristen's family. And they always ask, like, Grandma Joyce, can you pray for dinner? And she goes, yes, let's bow our heads. And she would just come. It was almost like she was crying. And, like, she wasn't teary-eyed, but she was crying out to the Father. Like, you just heard it in her voice. And there was nothing fake. There was nothing rehearsed. There was nothing like, God bless the foods for our body. Thank you for my family. Amen. It was like, God, from the deepest parts of my soul, I thank you for this beautiful family you've given me. God, from the deepest part of my soul, I thank you for this meal we're about to eat. Like, everything was so incredibly authentic and real. Yeah. It was like, we literally have a video of her floating around where we would record her praying, just because it was so impactful that, like, if you're having a bad day, watch Grandma Joyce pray. Like, so yeah, if I could have anybody pray for me for anything, it would be Grandma Joyce. She was the real deal. And I know for a fact she's up in heaven doing her dang thing. Like, she is worshiping Jesus with every fiber of her being. Like, amen. She's amazing. Amazing.
Yep. I think right now, my buddy Michael Montalvo, he's
shout out Montalvo.
He's an interesting dude. Don't get me wrong. He's very different, but he has such a deep relationship with Christ that it makes him different and weird. But he has so much. He's realized the authority, we have in Christ, and he speaks that authority. And we get together once every couple weeks, and we pray together. And he's like, he prays for the walls to change. He prays for the walls to split. So it's just, when I'm with him, praying with him, just like, that's when I feel like that's when, other than when I'm by myself, that's the closest I get to Christ, is when he's praying over me, laying hands on me. So yeah, Michael's a good choice.
Nice.
Yeah, he's solid.
All right, so my choice would be my mom. It's not that I'm so much a mama's boy, but I mean, I love my mom, but I recognize just the strength in her prayer life. Yeah. Like, I can remember as a kid, every single morning that I would wake up and go down the steps, and I would turn to the left into the family room, and there would be my mom sitting with her daily bread devotional and her Bible and her list of people she's praying for, and her hot cup of tea that has to be steaming hot. She is just so consistent in her prayer life and takes everything to the Father. And if you ever ask my mom to pray for you and she says, yes, I'll pray for you, you can take it to the bank that she is praying for you. And
that's awesome.
I mean, I'll give you one quick example. Her family was a good family. It was, but it wasn't necessarily a Christian family. Okay. And so she had, there were 5 siblings altogether, and the parents, and my mom was the youngest of all of them, and she was the only one that went to church. And she would get on the church bus and go to church.
Wow.
But she prayed for her family. And I think it was for a period of about 26 years that she prayed every day that my Aunt Gloria would accept Christ. And she did.
Wow.
But to know that was just, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep praying. So
That's huge.
Yeah,
man.
it's just a true testimony for, God will recognize those sincere prayers, and the answer may not come exactly at the time that we think it will, but sometimes he's doing that to grow us as well. So, any closing thoughts for today?
Not that I can think of. You got any closing thoughts?
Bless him.
We must be out.
No thoughts up there.
All right. So, well, we hope you've enjoyed as we've been going through some of these questions, and I encourage you to reply back in the comments or email podcast@shepnaz.org. You can tell us your answers to the questions, or maybe even send us some as well. We also want to encourage you to check on everything that's going on in the church by going to shepnaz.org, and to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastors Zack and Noah, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.